speakers in the back from my little home studio. We'll play that song.
We are the superstars, superstars are we, the ones who have the power.
Hey.
All right, how you? Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hey, this is Loop City Podcast. We're gonna do a quick podcast on two different things. We're gonna do it on. We're gonna review NBA 2K22, have a little discussion about that, and review that, and we will be talking on Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, on this podcast. Today, I guess we co-host Gonzostar and Rad-Remm. We on here, which, like I said, we're talking. Just pretty much
What's
having a
up?
discussion out loud and live. So we just let the show go where it goes. What's your first impressions on NBA 2K22? The pros. I want the pros first.
The pros. I mean, you know what? The biggest complaint I've had about the game the past few years has been the defense. I've always said to Matt and you, and even Pete, that these are our buddies for those who don't know, aren't privy to that information. Anyhow, I've been telling them for the past 3 years or so since I started playing the game again that defense has been an issue. Like, I find it incredibly hard to play defense. And I feel like it's unrealistic the things that the offense is able to do at times. And you're giving your best efforts on defense and you can't stop. A lot of times you'll get like a blocking foul, or if you go to contest the shot, especially if the player has a high rating, it's usually a foul. And we know that's not always true. I mean, great players do get favoritism and special privileges from the refs, but I think that it was just a little outrageous. So the defense has been the biggest pro for the game, that they fixed it and they've made it to where it's not as easy to score as it has been in past years. So that's a con.
Absolutely. Me personally, what I do like about it is a pro to me is the way the pick and roll defense is now. Like, now they actually ice the pick and roll. Now they actually show and recover. They know how to trap you coming off the pick and roll, depending on who's your point guard, or depending on you doing the same play over and over. The computer starts to adapt to that. It starts to show you that they can adapt to what you're doing. You can't do the same thing too many times in a row, because last year you could do the same pick and roll over and over and over again with the same two people, and it couldn't be stopped. This year, the computer kind of recognizes that and forces you to try something different. Now try doing a pick and roll with another player. But I suggest people who play the game to run more plays, because plays is what kind of throws the computer off. Also, too, I would recommend most people to do as well is to go into the settings and change your settings. Don't leave them on auto, because some things the computer is not good at doing as good as an actual user. So it's best for you to change your settings a lot. Computer makes a lot of mishaps. The computer will leave a person like Steph Curry like wide open in like the worst of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, when I change my settings, I want Steph Curry denied. If you beat me, you're gonna beat me with James Wiseman. You're gonna beat me with Draymond Green, but you won't beat me with Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, because I'm never leaving you. Off the ball, a man is always gonna stay on them. I'm not going to guard them tight all the time either, because they have the ability to go to the hole and shoot the jumper. So I would probably play them moderate. Defense is a pro, but for me, defense is also a con. What I mean by that is that too often, too many people can stay with the player that they shouldn't be able to stay with, especially on fast breaks.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of fast breaks anymore. There's a lot of they're riding your hip animations, and we all know in the NBA, fast breaks happen quite often, especially in today's NBA. So
at 100%, 100%.
And there's no way that somebody's always riding your hip. It's like there's no margin for error. It's not penalizing people for playing bad defense. I hate the fact that somebody could crash the offensive glass, set their settings to crash the offensive glass, and I could get the rebound and kick it out. And for some strange reason, I can't push the break when I clearly have a easier way to the lane, to the other end as I should, and I'll get this hip ride animation point. It kind of like slows me down. I understand what they want to do because they don't want easy scoring, but at the same token too, you shouldn't punish me for leaking out because they chose to crash the glass and didn't get the rebound. So I shouldn't be punished for doing. I shouldn't be punished for my strategy, just because of the animation you want to put in the game to reduce scoring. That's one of those things that I don't really like. I don't like this either. I like my career mode because I think that helps build the character that you're going to use in the rec center. But I'm so sick of all the storylines. Oh my, it's just too much. All this drama with the trade rumors, all of this drama with, you have to go meet with Kendrick Perkins at the news studio to talk about your 90 rating in 2K. Are you worthy of that 90 2K rating? Or just stupid stuff. Runway fashion show. You're meeting up with Zach Levine at the Mountain Dew courts. It's just too much. It's almost like so much drama built into the game. I can't really even play the games like I want to and just get right into it and start building my character. It's just, some of it's just too much going on. And my team, I don't even play my team. So, because my team is kind of like, to me, it's like basketball Pokemon with digital cards. Hey, I have Sapphire Jordan. I have Ruby Jordan. It's just kind of stupid to me, man. Like I can't get the my team thing. And 2K has gotten heavy.
So would the Splash Brothers be like Squirtle?
Yeah, like pretty much. That's pretty much what you're getting. And you're getting like say for instance, you might get a Steph Curry. He might be a Sapphire. Then you get Steph Curry Ruby. He's better because he's Ruby Steph Curry over Sapphire Steph Curry. Like it's just too much. And then everything is so based. 2K is so heavily based with microtransactions. Like people, I applaud people who can build their characters up from scratch, from the bottom, without using VC. But I can almost bet they probably won't be very good in the rec center for at least 6 months, while the people who are purchasing VC can be good in 3 weeks. It just doesn't make sense they pretty much force you to have to buy VC at some point just to get your character to be somewhat decent, even in the rec center. I like rec. It's probably my favorite mode. Playground, I'm not very fond of. But those are the few things. Those are some of the things I like and some of the things I dislike. But overall, core gameplay. What is your opinion on the core gameplay?
Well, let me say this. Because I just gave you a con, I didn't give you a pro, but I'm gonna say this. One of the cons is, and it's not a big one, it's just how they did the turbo. Because I think that if you could have turbo for just a little bit longer, like you did in past years, then you wouldn't have the animation with them riding your head. Like there's no reason why, like James Harden, if I'm using the Nets, why he can't beat his defender like he does in real life. You know what I mean? It's just like I have to, because how I play the game, I use the joystick for dribble moves because it's always easier. Because what I was doing when I want to shake my defender or create some space, I would always pull up and go into the shoot motion, and sometimes jack up shots that I didn't want to take. So, excuse me. I think that's a con for me, like how that turbo, because you can press it down, but then it runs out, but it doesn't give you a boost to like really blow by that defender. Because in certain locations, you can, or if you're in a triple threat, you can get that defender off balance. You take it, get the layup or the dunk. So I'm not really a fan of that. Um, and what you said, I totally agree with. Like, how they can ride you, and you know, I do my career, my player. I'm sorry,
Mm.
and I found that. it's never been as hard as it is this year. I even went to the Gatorade store and bought all the drinks, bought like 10 of all of them, the drinks, they have the protein drink, the regular, and I have not been able to like win games in that mode. And I usually am. It could also be a result of me picking a player that's a different position. Because for those that don't know, you and I, we played a game with our friends, Matt and sometimes Pete.
Mhm.
And I was always usually the point guard. So not having the ball, I don't know if it's a result of me not having the ball in my hands and having to create my shot. I made myself a two guard. But even so, like I have found it incredibly difficult to score. Like I lost the championship game in college when I was in college. I went to the G League. I'm not winning games there either. And I'm wondering if I should go down a level, but that's not. I always try to like when the show comes out, I always try to play on the hardest level because I know I got to play you, and you're like immortal in that game. Um, and and Matt usually plays the game before I do, and he gets accustomed to it before me. I don't like to take my time, and he'll beat me. So I figure if I play at the hardest level, play to my weaknesses, then when I play y'all, I'll be better off, And I still haven't played you in the show because what you did to me in the game last year, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. You know, can we
No, it's
can we
not
get
that
the
bad.
live box for that? Like, you know, I'm chasing. I'm not going. I'm not. I'm not going back to an abusive relationship. Sorry. Um, but anyhow, but anyhow, yeah, man, I've been thinking about like going down a level, but I have to really applaud the people
But
at 2K. Go ahead.
I don't think that you even have to go down a level. I think the way the game is, for what I'm learning playing the game, is that the game is forcing you now to level up. So it's not even, not only do you have to have the ratings, as you start to accumulate more badges, you'll
Mm,
see it becomes more easier for your player to do certain things. Because starting off when
okay.
you don't have any badges, you won't be able to blow by anybody. You won't really be able to score. You'll miss layups. You won't be able to make jumpers. But as your badges start to accumulate, you start getting in the practice gym, you play more games, you start to build up. The more you get a badge, the better your player becomes, and you start to see him kind of develop. So I don't think it's because I lost a ton of games, like my first like maybe 10 games, I lost pretty much all of those because I wasn't really able to do anything. So I started getting in the practice gym, um, and started kind of like leveling up. And then once I leveled up and got me a few badges, I started going over to what's the guy's name, Chris Brinkley's court, and started hooping with
Right.
Zion Williamson and John Morant, and I ended up getting the Mamba Mentality badge, and then I'm able to change my takeovers uh, before every game, whichever way I want, So a lot of my character got developed quickly by going to practice and so stuff like that. So the more badges you accumulate, the easier it becomes for your player to score, which I think is good for 2K because they're making people actually get in and put the work in for the players to be good. Because in times past, you can get on there and you could have like last year. Remember we got in the wreck with people who had like 71s, and
Right. Right.
I mean they're firing up threes and making them like green releases. Like this year, that's not going to
Every
really
time.
happen. And
Nah.
but
No. No.
and this year contesting shots mean a lot more too, depending on who you have on you. Like if you got somebody like Kawhi Leonard on you, or you got somebody like a LeBron or Kevin Durant, and you're a smaller guy, you're gonna have a much lower percentage of a chance of your shots going in because they're so much bigger, and not only they're better,
Right.
they're good defenders. Like Drew Holiday, I noticed something about Drew Holiday. I was playing with the Bucks the other night, and I was playing against the Charlotte Hornets, and I noticed that Drew Holiday could knock the ball loose like repeatedly against like their weaker ball handlers. Like he could like come by and just swipe the ball loose, or kind of cause an action, make him pick it up off the floor, or cause him to lose it because his on ball defensive skills and steal ratings are so high that he can get the ball from people. But if I was using somebody else who wasn't as defensively skilled as him, they would probably came out as more so fouls as opposed to steals. So I do like the fact that they created the people who are really good defenders are really good defenders in the game. Uh, so I do respect that they did that. Like I said again, I don't think we should really look for big changes with sports games every year. What we really should want is for them to build on basketball. If you're making video game basketball, build on that and just continue to make it better. Like last year, there was no defense.
Well, I'll say this. Like I was kind of griping the other day. I was like, I think I was telling you, man, I don't think a video game should be this hard. Like who has the time to really invest? And honestly, I haven't really played it as much as like I played the previous games. As of yet, I haven't just because, my schedule is different. Just life is different right now for me than it was when the other games came out the past few years. My schedule is different, but I have to applaud them for causing the player to have to think because we've always said this too. Matt and I, we play basketball growing up like most my whole life, and I still play to this day. Like I still play at least 3 times a week, but when I can. But this
Mm,
game now, you have to know how to play basketball to be successful at it. You can't just come and jack threes. That's why, like,
no.
I've given a lot of criticism to the Warriors over the years for their style of play. In hindsight, I can't really knock them for their style of play. But what I can knock is the fact that they've made it look so easy that other people feel like they can do it. And that's what kids are doing now. They just want to jack threes. They want to shoot a bunch of threes, and they think it's a they don't understand that they just happen to grow up in time to where we have two of the best shooters of all time on one team. And in that same regard, that's what happens in the rec nowadays. Like, um, well, the past few years, I haven't been in the rec yet or at the playground where they just jack threes, but I have done some of I guess the Chris, whatever his name is, where you go, where you have to go and play pickup games against like other people, and you have to
Hmm.
join up with other people.
Yeah, Chris
It's
Brinkley. Yep.
Chris Brinkley. It's kind of difficult when they put you through these obstacles and your player hasn't really developed yet. It's kind of weird. But what I will say is that overall, I think I'm talking about us, you and I and Matt and Pete, we've been so critical of the game. Not so much Matt. He's just happy to be playing a
Yeah.
basketball game. But we have been very critical of the game over the past few years. And the times that we really were satisfied, I think like 2 years ago, 20, what is it, 18, 19.
Hmm.
I think 19 and 20, no, 18 and 19, was it? We were really
18,
satisfied
19.
with it. Yeah, we were really satisfied with it out the box.
Out the
And
box
then
is
of
always
course
good.
they start patching it. Well, from what I've seen on Twitter, it doesn't seem like Czar is gonna patch anything. It looks like he's really putting his foot down this year with the game. And it's like, okay, you don't like it, deal with it, figure it out. And I
You know,
love that.
I don't think it's really, and for what I've been understanding all these years, I used to always think it was Czar. A lot of people blame Rodney 2K. We used to blame Scott OG Gallagher. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think they really have control over the patching process. I think that's more so Mike Wang. Mike Wang is probably the one who's patching the game more than anybody because at one time Mike Wang was changing the shot meter or the shot timing like every other day he was doing it. Because he would do it with in-game patches. Sometimes you come and see the basketball across the screen, it was like it was loading. Those are in-game patches that he was uploading and changing the shot timing in the reg, stuff like that. And he did that a lot. And I was kind of annoyed by that because I get so upset because we start off with a game that's so good. Like this game is harder this year. It forces you to think. It forces you to run plays. It forces you to play basketball. I'm scared because in the next month it'll be too. It'll either be too easy or it'll be where we won't have the same game that we have now. And believe it or not, most of the patches, and this is something I just believe personally. I think most of the patches happen because you got to think about who's buying the game. Okay, give an example. You buy the game, I buy the game, Matt buys the game, Pete buys the game. and I consider us sim gamers because we play the games like we're playing like a real basket, like we're playing real basketball.
Absolutely, yes.
But the casual gamer is the one who's spending more money. Give an example. If you ever stood in one of those long lines at GameStop to get one for a midnight release for NBA 2K at any time, you'll notice most of those people in the line probably don't hoop. I've seen guys in cowboy boots and 400 pounds talking about they're going to create 6'1", 165 pound point guards, and they're going to make them 3-point shooters like Steph. They're going to make them passes like Magic Johnson. And I'm looking at this guy like, I know you've never played sports in your life. Like just by the
Let's
way you're
get the
talking
laughing.
about it.
You got to press
You
the
know what
laugh
I'm
button.
saying? Like, you know, but those are the people who are paying so much VC. They're paying so much for microtransactions. They're paying so much for my team cards and things like that. So they have to cater to those people who are paying more than just the base price for the game. I think this year, and I'm not going to say this year. I think more people are coming over to the sim style of play. We still have cheesers and cheaters, obviously, but I don't think you'll ever be able to get rid of them because it's just like in that case you're looking for a perfect world, and in this world nobody's perfect, and there's always going to be that one group that's just not going to do right. You can walk into a room and put $1 million in three drawers, and in the last drawer put $2 million, and you can tell two guys, hey, look, you can have everything in drawer one, everything in drawer two, and everything in drawer three. Do not go in drawer four. That's mine. And the moment you leave, one guy will probably tell the other guy, hey, look out. I'm finna see what's in drawer four. Like, dude, you just had 3 million from 1, 2, and 3, but something about it, you just have to break the rules of going drawer four because people just not gonna do right. It's just, I'm a firm believer that it's gonna be somebody in the group that just wants to do the opposite just because rules are in place. So we're always gonna have cheaters and cheesers. They're always gonna be around. I just hope that true basketball kind of lives out longer than the cheeser. It forces people to adapt to the way that they should play. I want. I don't want to see 50-foot threes. Because let's be honest. Everybody's not Steph Curry and Damian Lillard. I'm so sick of
Let me
like
tell you
last year.
something, man. Let me tell you something. When I go to the gym now, at my age, which I won't disclose on this podcast, I say this, man. Like, I'm trying to shoot as close to the basket now. Like, I settle for the mid-range game, like all the time. And then if we're playing 21, because we don't have enough people to play like games.
Mhm.
That's how they play in California. Back home, once you had 17, you got 19, you shoot the free throws, that's it. Or you keep shooting till you get to 21, whatever. Out here, you got to shoot a three to win. So you have 21, and you still have to step back and shoot a three. You know how many games I lost because of the 3-point shot after going so hard for the whole game, playing 21 with other people that can ball, and you got to play defense. It's like you're tired at that point. It's like it is just like it's not realistic at all. Um, I think they've nailed it. I say all that to say they've nailed it in terms of you know making it more like a real game of basketball. So I guess the conversation next would be like gamer versus basketball fan. You know what I mean? Like we got people
Mhm.
that buy 2K that are just gamers and they want to dunk and they want to shoot threes all day long. And then you have people that know how to play basketball and they want something that's more realistic. They want a simulation. They want like, okay, if I run this play, this is what's going to happen or that's what's going to happen. And I would say that more people are probably gamers than they are basketball players. Some people probably play the game because they never did play basketball. They never could physically do it or they weren't good at it and they're good at the game. They're good gamers. Other people are, when I play people that are younger than me, for an example, or when I play like a kid or something, I usually lose because
Mhm.
they know the nuances and they know how to exploit like the glitches in the game like you or
Mhm.
what we know as cheese to win. And they're like, man, you suck. And I'm like, I'm playing real basketball. Like I'm actually running plays. I'm doing pick and rolls and I'm doing You know what I mean? But it's difficult to beat them because they'll turn the speed all the way up, and they just play it at a rate that is just like, mm-mm. So I
Mm.
think that the game does cover a wide audience, and that's the beauty of it is that I could play people in my age group that are gonna play it like it's a real game. Like when I'm playing you, when I'm playing Matt, when I'm playing Pete, um, and I think that it's definitely E for everyone rating. So you also have those kids that are playing people in their age group, and somehow it's working for them. You know what I mean? Because they're good at video games
Yeah. And
and not
and I kind
necessarily good
of
at basketball. You know?
and I agree with you to that. And I think that's the reason why I think basketball as a whole has changed. I don't really think it's because the game has changed. I don't think that it's because the big man is irrelevant and nobody wants to play the old way. I think the fan has changed basketball. Give an example. I think during the 80s and 90s, the fans liked the grueling battle to win a playoff game, the strategy to win a game. The typical fan today, they just want to see dunks and threes. So that's the product that the NBA has to give them in order to sell. So that's why you see a lot of this kind of casual, kind of like gamer mentality because most of the people aren't real fans of basketball. Most people don't want to see a pick and roll. They don't want to see plays ran. They don't want to see a hard foul. They don't want to see a grueling game where both teams are fighting and will have to win it at the free throw line. That's not what people want to see. People want to see dunks and threes. That's all they care about, and crossovers. You know, and that's something that has kind of killed basketball for me. Because I can remember as a kid that in those times there was no respect because Michael Jordan was just Michael Jordan. He didn't get away with stuff just because he's Michael Jordan. Like go look at his free throw attempts
Mm-mm.
per game in most of those seasons. He wasn't getting double digit free throw attempts like most of the players today. He wasn't. Um, they had to kind of work and fight to get those points. Not to mention they had to fight through hand checking and all those different things. And this is not to go off topic, but it's just like I kind of understand why the NBA game is the way it is, and understand why the casual
No, no,
gamer
no,
is
no, no,
taking
no,
it.
no. You're not going off topic because I'm gonna tell you something. You know, I woke up this morning. I was watching just like there's this YouTube channel, and it popped up in my feed. I was just perusing on YouTube, and basically it's one of those guys that takes all the highlights from those old games and edits them to where you see like the
Mm,
battles and the interesting parts. And he had some All-Star games, but he had like game 6 and 7 of the '94 finals, which it was just like Hakeem going at Ewing. And I'm watching it, and it was like you said, a really grueling game, a lot of back and forth, a lot of the emotions. And I didn't even remember who won this particular game, but the way that no, I think it was game 5, 6, and 7. Man, the way that Hakeem and Patrick were going at it, and the way Hakeem was just abusing Patrick, just mixing them, and the whole and you see Kenny Smith and Orr and Cassell just and Otis Thorpe and everybody called Herrera just on the whoever was on the bench just jumping up and down and all on each other like they were in awe because Hakeem was really like Jordan in center form, you know what I mean? And
absolutely.
I think that what we had back then that's lacking today is those real rivalries, and that's what's to me what's affected the game because there's just too much fraternizing with the players today. It's like Hakeem and Patrick they weren't friends, but they knew each other since college. They played against each other in college, and that rivalry went all the way. And obviously, Ewing got the best of him in college, and then in the NBA, it's like now Hakeem gets his rematch, and they're like going at it. One thing I will say is this that the game has done over the past few years is that when you play with the throwback teams, like if you're Chicago playing Detroit, it's going to be the most physical. It's going to be one of a really
Yeah.
hard fought game. They have really put that aspect in the game, and the commentators will be like, "Well, there was a rivalry between Thomas and Jordan because, Jordan moved to Chicago. He played for the Bulls and took the team. Isaiah felt like he took his own team from him. He won the crowd over, and they do put that aspect in that game. But overall, basketball as a whole, it's really missing. Like the Bulls and the Pistons hated each other. Like John
Yeah,
Starks and Michael Jordan, they respected each other, but you know what I mean. When they're on the court, they hated each other. The Knicks and the Heat hated each other.
they did.
Now these guys today, they all work out with each other, and they're all friends, and they're trying to recruit each other to join forces and all of these things. And it definitely has affected the game.
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
and I'm not talking about 2K, I'm talking about the NBA game itself because,
NBA, absolutely.
it's like they're so, I don't know, and I think you lose a bit of that competitive edge when you fraternize so much. Because when I play Madden basketball, like, you know, we go at it because we're just cut from that cloth. It's just like, all right, I'm gonna destroy you. Then we're gonna go CC's Pizza and eat afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but not everybody, can do it when it's excessive. It's like I think that it really changes. It really changes things, and that has affected the NBA. Big time.
Absolutely.
I saw an
And
interview. Clyde was talking about MJ. He was like, I didn't really know him. He said, I remember seeing him when we played North Carolina, thinking like, watching him play, thinking like, man, this guy is so good. But he said, I didn't really know him. He said, even when we met in the finals, he said they just would chat here and there. Like, how's the family? Okay, good. All right. As soon as that ball went in the air, like they going at each other. And I think that if we had that kind of NBA, it would make the game even much better. You know what I
and
mean?
and I have to give a lot of respect to Giannis because I think Giannis wants to. He kind of brought that competitive edge back to the NBA. And I'm gonna give you an example. A few years ago, everybody said, "Oh, Giannis needs to develop a jump shot, and he should go work out with LeBron." And Giannis says, "No, I don't want to work out with nobody I'm competing with. Competing
Right.
against."
Right.
And he said this repeatedly, and everybody goes, "Oh, he lost. No, no, he should kind of team up with some of these guys and see what they're doing, so he can incorporate some new things to his game." I like the fact he took his stance, and regardless of interesting part of basketball, we can't say put an asterisk next to the Bucks championship because other teams got injured. Well, I mean, it was your duty to stay healthy. You weren't able to do it. Tough luck.
Well,
Um,
if we're gonna put an asterisk next to that, then we need to put an asterisk next to that bubble championship that LeBron won. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. So, me personally, what Giannis did, and people keep saying, "Oh, he didn't improve his game." He just. And I heard somebody the other day told me, "Oh, all he did was dunk during the finals." But people obviously weren't watching the game because Giannis was hitting that little 10-foot jumper in the lane off one leg. He was hitting a lot of jumpers. He nailed 80+% of his free throws, which is probably the best he's ever done. He hit his free throws. He rebounded like a monster, and I mean, he dominated his opponent and
You
he
don't
won a
get a 50
championship.
piece with dunks, with all dunks. You don't
No,
get a 50 piece with all dunks.
and that's why I give him so much credit because as much as people hate to hear it, his one championship is worth more than a lot of these players who have multiple. Like Dirk's one championship is worth more than a lot of players who had multiple because it's like I went up against a team that was a super team, and I had good veterans on my team, but none of my veterans were at the caliber that they used to be. Jason,
I
is
don't
it
think there was
Terry?
another All Star, well, current All
It
Star
it
on that
wasn't,
team.
and that's the thing. So somebody told me, they said, "Oh man, Tyson Chandler was an All Star." Yeah, that was like 2 years later when he went to the Knicks. That was his first All Star appearance, and he didn't become a Defensive Player of the Year until after he left Dallas. So it's like he took a bunch of players who were formerly All Stars, older veterans, and he won a championship, being pretty much the only lone superstar on the team. So
Yes.
I give credit to that.
And I like the statement he made too. Like, I could easily go to another team and win a championship, but I won it the hard way. Now he's gonna have to eat those words and back it up this season. It's like, can you repeat and can you beat a team like this? And that would be good to see. I don't want to stray too far. I know we got to talk about power, but
Yeah,
that would be interesting for me to see. You know.
Absolutely. We'll do another podcast on all the NBA stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we talked about 2K. Let's go into the power discussion. Power Book 3, awesome series. I didn't have high hopes for Book 2, and I was kind of leery about Kanan Book 3, but I was kind of curious because why Kanan was the way it was. And you brought something to me the other day that kind of, which kind of like made me kind of understand the point of view of power and Kanan. Kanan was like Tyreek. You
Mm.
said this. Like, yeah, his ghost sold drugs, rock sold drugs, but they tried to keep their children away from that life.
Mm-hmm.
And both children who went to school, Kanan had a
Who
chance to
was
go to honor
smart?
school,
Mm-hmm.
smart, and he still wanted to be a part of that life. But this is the difference. I think Tyreek is much smarter. I think Kanan is an idiot. I think Kanan was more vicious, but I think Tyreek was much smarter. Because if anybody's watching this series, you see Kanan is really the problem behind everything that's going on. He's the problem, really. Um, I love the actors in the show. Uh, my favorite character right now is Rock, obviously, and her brother Lulu. I like Lulu, but
Is
for
he
some
the one that
strange
kind
reason,
of looked like Keith Sweat?
no. Lulu is the
He's the one with the Puerto Rican girl dating
yeah,
Famous' sister. Okay,
famous sister. Yeah,
okay,
I kind of like
yeah.
Lulu, but I think for some strange reason, I just think the girl's bad news. I think she's an opportunist. She knows he has money, and she's taking advantage of that to try to get her brother famous. But for some strange reason, I think I hate to say this. I think something's gonna happen to famous.
Well, I think she's gonna switch sides. I think she's gonna flip and go get
You
with
think?
homeboy Joey. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You think so? See, I think differently. I think what's gonna happen is famous is talking a lot about. He's rapping about stuff that happened with Kanan and the crew, and I think they're gonna kill famous
Um,
because it seems that famous is there. And I noticed something. Famous real name is Sean. I think that's the reason why Kanan named his son Sean too.
maybe. You know, I think. Let me tell you something. I didn't have high hopes for this show. I wasn't even. I was just gonna watch it just because, and I was very reluctant to watch Power Book 2, but I absolutely loved it. Like I think I watched like the first 2 episodes. I said, okay, where is this going? I think by episode 3, 4, I was like, okay, I need more. When it ended, I was upset because it gave me the same vibes that season 1 and 2 of Power had. Power is my guilty pleasure. I think I started watching it because I was curious because someone I knew had season 1 and 2 like dubbed on a disc, and they were telling me it was so good. And then you and Pete were telling me I needed to watch it. So I think like um, when I was injured, I binged it and I got caught up, and then the new season started, and then we would all chat and watch it. And the earlier seasons, like season 1, 2, and 3, like they could do no wrong. I think season 4's was started to be the drop off of Power, but Power Book 2 really good. The Book of Canaan, I was kind of like you said, I was hesitant, I was skeptical, but there's certain shows and movies you can watch, and they really take you back to that time period. I'm a sucker for
Absolutely.
period pieces. Like for example, not to stray out, but I thought the New Edition biopic was like probably one of the best musical biopics I've ever seen because having a big sister who was a huge fan of them, I was familiar with their music. Mr. Telephone Man, like all of those songs. And when I saw how they executed and the fact that they made it a series and not just a movie like Straight Outta Compton to go to the movie theaters and watch it, and they try to condense all the information and all those stories within 2 hours. I thought it was
Mhm.
brilliant, and I think that 50 must have seen that, or Courtney Kemp, whoever's writing, had to have seen that because I think that what one aspect of the show that they're getting right is they're making you feel like you're in the early 90s with the vehicles, with the music they're playing, the
Yes, they
flat
do.
top haircuts, the
Yes, they do.
attire, like all they are really
The
making you
chains,
feel the chains,
the
the
dressing.
polo, like how polo was so huge, the hairstyles, and I'm really feeling like, man, like it's giving me those nostalgic feels. Cause you get older, you start to long for like the time period that you grew up in, you start to reminisce and
Absolutely.
think of those days like, did I
Yeah,
really enjoy those times? And the music always takes me back there. It always gets me in my feel. Like I'll hear in
absolutely.
it wasn't cool to listen to NSYNC when we were in high school. If you went to an urban high school like I did, but like I hear NSYNC song now and I just start getting emotional. Like, dang, I remember like I used to have to like hide to listen to this one NSYNC song. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
the
I know what you
feels and the
mean.
music takes you back there too.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
our
saying?
time was
And
dope. Like,
I I get those feels, bro. Like I get those feels, those '90s feels, and that's what I like about it. It's just like when I'm watching that show, I feel like I'm back in the '90s, and I can enjoy the music that they play, and it captures the grit of '90s New York. And my favorite character, just like Power Book Two, is the women. Like I love Rock, and I love Mary J. Blige's character in Book Two. But Rock, I think she's so beautiful. I
yeah,
love her.
she
She
is.
kind of she kind of reminds me of my mom in some strange way. Like that, I think
Mm.
that's what's kept me with the show. Cause after the first few episodes, I was kind of wanting to bail, but it's not as intriguing as Power Book Two is because it's new and we're like we're more invested in like Tariq and Tasha and Tommy and those characters like that.
Mm.
I
Absolutely.
think this show is like we know Kanan as the killer, but it's like they're going the Michael Corleone route, whereas like he's an innocent kid. What's really making him snap? We still haven't gotten to that point to where it's like what really made this kid snap and become the cold blooded killer and become like the guy who could kill his own son. That doesn't value life. Like we haven't seen that yet. He's like 15, right, in the series, and
Mm.
I think what's kept me too is that the relationship he has with his mom and the openness, it kind of reminds me of me and my mom in a way. Like, you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah, I
like
know what you mean.
it's like he loved
Absolutely.
his mama loved him, she's doing everything to protect him, and then he loves her too. And then he's constantly like trying to make her proud and just prove to her that like he's such a man. And she's like, this doesn't make you a man. This is my life. But if you want to jump in it, here are the rules. If you insist, So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Uh, it's almost like they have a mother and son relationship where they actually meet each other. Um, I think eventually, if nothing happens during the show, I think that he's kind of like her. He's going to become like her right hand man, her strong arm, and she'll be his strong arm, and they help keep each other out of trouble. But I think Rock is smart. I think Kanan was one. He's one of those guys who's very eager to be the leader, but doesn't have leadership ability. Uh, he's book smart, but when it comes to the streets, he was stupid. Like he just did a lot. He's done a lot of stuff in this show that's just messing everything up. Like
he's
he's
naive. That's what
yeah,
it is. It's just
he
like
kind of
his
irritates me somewhat. Like
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like he irritates me bad right now. But it also makes me go back and appreciate Ghost because it tells you that Ghost was really like the brains. He was really the strength. He was kind of the wisdom. Like he was really building a life to keep everybody out of trouble. And nobody wanted to go their route. They wanted to stay in the same place that they've always been. And I think, and it's kind of one of those things that kind of like speaks to us in our own lives sometimes. Like once you start progressing and going forward, everybody can't go with you.
Exactly.
At some point, you have to let some people go. You know, everybody's not fit to go to the
Hundred
kingdom or
percent.
go to prosperity like you. Some people are just not fit to go. Some people are just not going to change their ways. sometimes money makes some people do things that they were always doing, but it makes it worse. Give an example. Some people say, "Why do athletes always go to go?" Well, I've heard somebody say this a few times. Why is as soon as a guy become an athlete, he starts getting in trouble? You know, he gets caught with weed, or he gets caught, you know, with women and all this stuff here. And it's like, no, he was always doing it. It's just it was happening on a smaller scale. It's like if you take a college kid who's
or
broke and has
or
no
he
money.
or he always desired it, but didn't have
Exactly.
access to it
Yeah,
because he didn't have the
exactly.
money or the popularity, the notoriety to go out and just like get it, you
To
know.
do and get it exactly. So it's like the
Right.
person who's selling nickel dime bags of drugs is like he becomes an athlete now, and he still wants to be in that street life. He might just go and buy, maybe not even intent to distribute, but he's buying bags of weed, like pounds and pounds of the stuff. It gets busted. It's like sometimes money helps people do some of the stupid stuff that they've always wanted to do at a grander scale. You know, so.
That
Uh,
poverty prohibited them from doing.
from doing it exactly, you know. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that kind of makes me despise Tasha, Tyreek, Tommy. It's almost like I feel to a degree that they got Ghost killed because he actually was trying to take them to new heights. He was trying to get completely out of the drug game. He wanted to open up nightclubs. He wanted to become a congressman, and that raggedy Tasha and his son ultimately was the cause of his demise. Uh,
Well, going back to Kanan, have you noticed that like the similarities in him and his uncles? Have you noticed that? It's like he's like a perfect blend of both uncles. It's like, you know, where it's like
a killer
he
like
wants
Lulu.
to, yeah, yeah, and then he wants affection of his mom, like the other brother, and he's like overzealous, like the one brother.
Yeah,
Have you noticed that? It's just like how much
yeah,
he's like his uncles, but
absolutely.
the mama's just the boss, like she's the real boss, you
Yeah,
know.
and
No, I
I
mean
was,
it's.
huh?
Go ahead,
I
go
was
ahead.
kind of totally shocked that Detective Howard is dead. Like,
I love that they did that because it's it's such a I love the complexity of that. It's like, okay, I'm your cop, I'm on y'all's tail. I'm also your dad, and I also need a bone marrow transplant. Spoiler alert, press the button. Gotta press some button. You gotta have a doo doo some button.
oh, you know
Um
what? I got that on here somewhere.
yeah, I'm sorry people. Um but no, I love the complexity of that. I want to see how that plays out. I think it'll be really cool. But I wanted to ask you, what's your thoughts on Juke?
I think Juke is she's a young girl who's going through her own issues, and I think part of her is somewhat damaged emotionally because of the way her father acts towards her because of her life choice. That's one reason. I also think the death of Nicole has affected her, but also I think that that's where her resentment for Kanan or her kind of like anger towards Kanan later on. And that, well, I'm gonna say later on, but in Power in the first episode of Seasons of Power when she was on there as an adult and cop, I think that a lot of that resentment from Kanan kind of stemmed from.
Wait. Juke is in power?
Well, yeah, if you go to remember in Power, remember when Tyreek and them were robbing those houses, with Ray and them.
Yeah.
Jukebox was the girl cop. That was Kanan's cousin. That was Jukebox.
Oh, that was hiding him out.
Yes, Jukebox became
Man.
a cop in Baltimore.
Right. And she was kind of crooked. I remember because
Yeah,
she had a girlfriend in there.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
So I think she was kind of resenting Kanan for what happened in the past, and she probably looked at Kanan and saw that he was kind of like the cause of the family falling apart. Because if you notice, they never talked about Lulu and they never talked about Marvin. Me personally, I think that I'm assuming, and this is my guess. I don't know. They haven't disclosed this. Anyone? I think Marvin's probably going to end up in prison. I think Lulu's going to get killed, and I think Rock's going to get killed.
Well, I think that's interesting now because I didn't realize that she was in. Do you think that maybe she resents him because her girlfriend died?
Yeah, I think that's a real big uh, that's a real big problem. Notice she said this to the king when they were out there. She was selling coats and he was selling drugs in the park. She says, "Don't f this up." She said the same thing in Powell before, saying, "Don't f this up," because she's known him since a child to be an f up, and I think
Mhm.
that's where her resentment comes from. He never really handles business like he should. Same thing when she kept
So,
telling him,
so when Ghost tried to set him on fire and he broke out, that's where he was staying with Juke, right?
Jew, yep,
Okay,
he
okay,
was staying with Jew. So
okay.
I think a lot of that, I think that's what she kind of resents him because she's probably thinking about all the stuff that happened to the family. He goes and shoots a buck 20 when nobody asked him to do that. That's one. Number two, uh, Rock had gave those corners to Unique. But because Kanan's so smart and didn't know that, he goes and kills somebody and does something that was totally against the rules of the game. Then it gets D Wiz killed because eventually, at first, it was going to get him killed, but they had to have a body come up to make it look like somebody retaliated. So they ended up killing D Wiz. That was Kanan's fault. Uh, the, the poison, putting the rat poison in the drugs, stuff comes from Kanan's fault. Like all these issues that you see is Kanan's fault. Rock got into it with Symphony because Kanan called Symphony to get him from down at the prison. That's Kanan's fault. Kanan get into it with Scrappy. They both get arrested. It's Kanan's fault. Like, everything is Kanan's fault. Like he's overzealous, but he's an idiot
Mhm.
or naive. Being young, you probably say naive, but he's making a lot of the wrong decisions. And Jukebox knows this, and Jukebox knows he's the reason behind it. So a lot of her disdain for him comes from all these mistakes he keeps making. So that's just my assessment. That's just what I think. I don't know. I'm just
Well, here's
guessing.
what I think. I think that he's probably going to play a part in his mother's death.
I think so too.
That's probably what's going to happen. And I would hope that he wouldn't be the one that kills her, like Tyra. You know what I mean? I hope it wouldn't be something like that. But I definitely think he's going to play a part in her demise, and that's what's gonna because they're going to Michael Corleone route from The Godfather. We still haven't seen what it is that's making this guy tick and what's making him really go off, or what's making him turn into Kanan as we know, as we knew in Power. Because if we're honest, I would say he was crafty, but he wasn't the smartest person even in Power. You know,
No, he wasn't.
but he was very he. I think he was just ruthless and crafty, and he's like you said, he's an opportunist. Like even when he sides with Ghost and Tommy, it was for his gain, and it was to bring division. Like you said, it was like he was going in there to really divide and plant seeds in Tommy's head because he knew that Tommy was easy to manipulate. So it's
Yeah,
going to
he
be
was the
very
weak.
interesting because we know they're going to introduce
Tommy and
Ghost and
Ghost.
Tommy. So I would reckon that that Tommy and Ghost, like the whole time I'm thinking they're older, but I guess now I would reckon that they're around like they're probably around closer to our age, this whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like kids that would have been in high school like in the late '90s.
because Kanan was like a few years older, and I think they were like seniors, and Kanan was probably like 20, 21. He was like 3 or 4 years older than they were.
Okay. Well,
And
if he's 15, and this show takes place in like 90, 91, right?
91, I think so.
Like
Yeah.
91, 90. Yeah, well, then that's about right. So then maybe he's about, because well, then maybe Ghost and Time are a little older than, because think about it. They're probably like, we'll say they were born like 1980, maybe
Mhm.
81. So yeah, it's about right. Just doing the
Yeah.
math.
And then even thinking about like hopefully in season 2 of book 3 or season 3 of book 3, we'll probably be seeing Kanan and Tommy maybe in season 3 of book 3. But Breeze should be coming up shortly. I think Breeze will be coming up next season. But I think first
But
they got to get Unique out the way, and then
the
Breeze is
thing
going to come in the
about
picture.
Breeze though is that the thing about Breeze is, how is it that Tommy? I mean, how is it that Kanan and Breeze become so close enough that Ghost can like take him out? You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be interesting. I just hope that when it's all said and done, it's not something that's just jammed together to make it work. You know what I mean? I hope it's not rushed, because I think like with Power, they got so they tried to be sporadic and spontaneous, and they try well, or rather, better word, they tried so hard to surprise the audience that they dug themselves in a hole that the extreme had to happen for them to get out of it. You know what I mean? Like killing
Yeah.
Angela, killing what was his daughter's name? Raina,
Raina.
and then killing eventually killing Ghost. But I think that was a result of them like going so far in the story, you know what I mean, and having no way out. To where they just like, okay, we're gonna kill this character, we're gonna kill this character, we're gonna kill this character, and then we're gonna start fresh and new with Power Book 2, you know.
I
So
think so too. Kanan told Kanan told Tyreek, he says, "You haven't really killed someone until you kill somebody you love." And the first thing I'm thinking is maybe Kanan killed Rock or one of his uncles, because I find it hard to
I'm thinking one
believe.
of his uncles. He loved his mama too much.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of his uncles, but also too, I think that because I'm almost certain he didn't kill his son that easy, and that was his first time killing somebody he loved or his family member. And then he killed Jukebox too. So I
I
don't think he
forgot he
killed,
killed Juke. Why did he
huh?
kill Juke? Why did he kill Juke?
Because she was telling him to kill those. Remember when they had Tyreek in that house and they had kidnapped him? She's like, she told him, she was like, what did she tell him? She told him like, do that, do it, Kanan, do it. He turned the gun on her and shot her.
Okay, I do. I kind of remember it now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, man.
That's you know what? It's so interesting now because of how close they are. They're not really like cousins. They're more like brother and sister.
sister,
And
they're
and
that
another
close.
question is, that's a complex character too. I want to know more about her. Like, where's her mama? They ain't made mention of her mom.
No, they
Where's
ain't
her
mentioned
mom?
nothing on them.
Hmm.
And
And
Rock
I
exposed
think
something last week about
what
Marvin. Said that the reason why she don't fool Marvin is because she had Marvin selling before, and he got hooked on it. He got hooked on the drugs and started to become a fiend before.
but that don't mean that he was a smoker. He could have been a cokehead, because think about it. Like, if he was a smoker, there's no way she'd have him around the drugs now.
No,
You got to be a
hey,
cokehead.
he's always treating that the lady that owned that little nightclub. He do her so dirty.
Oh yeah, but look, but see, and that's gonna be an interesting story moving forward too, because she's snitching. She got people on her trying to get her to give somebody up to get her off. So she's to be watched too. And it's interesting that they saved that for last week. Is it coming on tonight, or are they doing
No,
that
it's come. I
foolishness
think
where
it
they
come.
take a okay?
I think it comes on tonight at midnight on Stars. If you got the
Okay.
Stars app, it comes on at midnight.
Yeah. Well, I'll get it soon because it's past midnight in New York.
Yeah.
No, it's almost midnight in New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, um, yeah, man. That's how I feel about that show. And I was gonna say one last thing, man, before we call it. Um, Wanted to do my little sneaker review. If you play basketball and you're looking for a good basketball shoe, you should consider the Zion Williamson shoe. Um, my buddy Matthew Miller recommended this shoe to me. I was skeptical because I usually don't play in Team Jordans. I only play in like my favorite basketball shoe to play in Kobe. But if I'm not playing in Jordans, and the newer Nikes tend to fit me kind of tight. But what I didn't realize is if it's not a lifestyle shoe, you really have to break them in and you have to play. That's what the shoes are made for you to play in. And at first, they were really tight on me in the toe areas, and I was uncomfortable. But the minute I started playing basketball in them, I saw how uh, appropriate they were for me as a player. It's just you got to think about the shoes made for Zion Williamson, and he's a big guy, way bigger than I am. And the shoe was built, I guess, to carry that weight, and it's durable for the cuts and the moves he's gonna make at his size. So the shoe is just a good fit for me. I really like it. My style of play, I'm gonna like herky jerky, as some would describe it. But they're lightweight and they are comfortable now. They're a good fit. I need shoes that are really tight on my feet. Not tight, but just that are secure, that make me feel secure if I'm gonna
Mhm.
jump or if I'm gonna be running really fast, chasing a ball down or something. And they have ankle support and I like them. So I would recommend them. Give them a shot. Go to Foot Locker, try them out. No, I don't have any. This is not a paid. This show is not sponsored by Jordan Brand or anything like that. But I just thought that I would just give that a review, and yeah, and they look nice too. They look pretty good too.
Yeah,
I play in
they
my
are
black.
nice looking.
Yeah, I play in my black and red pair, and I was talking to Matt earlier, and I was like, I'm really looking forward to the Zion too. I'm really surprised with what they did with that shoe, and that is it for me.
I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I saw what Zion did to those was those Paul George shoes they do. They need to get
Hmm.
them some Tims.
Press the button.
Yeah, they need to get us. They need to get us some Tims. I'm sorry, Zion. Hey, I love you. I think you're a great player. It was just it was just a shot fired. Don't pay it any attention.
Yeah, he'll be all right. I hope so. I hope he has a good season this year. I hope it's
Yeah,
a
I hope so
breakout
too.
season for him.
I hope they make the playoffs too.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good for the NBA, you know,
Yeah, it will.
and it'll be good for that market in New Orleans. So
Absolutely
yeah,
will.
man. Well, this has
Hey,
been fun.
it has been pretty fun. Hey, we
Yeah,
hopefully come get back on next week. Talk hoops.
yeah, man. Talk hoops, talk games, talk whatever, man.
Cool.
Talk TV
Hey,
shows.
absolutely. So talk about episode of Power next week, the one we see
Yeah,
today.
exactly. The finale. And
Well, you
this
know,
has
we got
been
one more after this. I think we got this one, then we got one next week.
really.
I
I
think it's
thought this was
yeah.
the finale,
No,
cause the BMF. Okay, okay,
yeah, it's 10 episodes. Eight was last week, nine's this week, next week is 10.
okay. And then
Yep.
I
So,
know that BMF series is coming like afterwards too,
which one? What's
as
being
well.
the
The one that's based on Big Meech. 50's doing that, and it's
Oh, yeah,
gonna
that's
come
right.
right.
That's right.
Yeah. So they're keeping us with these shows that are produced by him. It's like so one ends, we get another one. And
And then
I'm
once that
really
one ends, then Power Book 2 comes back November 21st, I think. Yeah, I think Power Book 2 comes back November 21st with the Tyreek.
is that like, yeah, that sounds about right because yeah, that does sound about right because an adequate amount of weeks would have passed by to where yeah, that's about a 10 weeks, yeah. Because if this one is going to start like immediately after the Book of Canaan, that sounds about right. Well, we'll be entertained and we'll have things to watch and we'll have things to talk about. And I'm signing
Absolutely.
off. This has been an episode of The Loop.
Signing off, y'all.
Play the
We
music.
are superstars, superstars. Are we
Hey,
the ones who
that's
have
my theme
the
song now.
power?